Hi everyone, I'm Blair, fitness instructor with 19 Wing Comox, and today I'm going to talk to you about complex training. Complex training is a method of training used to improve your speed and power. Power is the speed of a maximal force or of a force. The higher you can have that force or the faster you can exert that force, the more power you'll have. And the more power you have, then the faster you can run, the higher you can jump, the harder you can hit, farther you can throw, and the better you will be at changing direction in any type of running sport. With resistance training and plyometric training used together, it utilizes the nervous system to recruit the maximum number of muscle fibers. So the more fibers that are activated, the harder or the higher your force production can be. You have three types of muscle fibers. You have your type 1, type 2A, and type 2B. So with your type 1, that's more of your endurance athlete. Type 2A is your athlete that's, say, your hockey player, your rugby player, football player. And then your type 2B is your Olympic lifter, your sprinters, shot put. And so with your type A, this system of utilizing energy is slow oxidative, which is an anaerobic method, and it will apply a low force and it'll have a low level of fatigue. So you're the low force and you can go for a longer period of time. With your type 2A, this is a fast oxidative, so the muscle fibers can contract a lot faster. Your force production is improved, but your level of fatigue has decreased, so you will fatigue faster. Your type 2B, those muscle fibers are fast oxidative glycolytic, and those ones are anaerobic as well, but they can apply a higher force and they fatigue really fast. So you're a lot more force than the type 2A, but they will fatigue faster than the type 2A. So with your complex training, we're trying to activate the max number of type 2B fibers. The more type 2B we have, then the higher that force production is. Depending on your sport that you're going for, you might not want a large number of type 2B, but you still want to try to do some training to activate the max number. So with a hockey player, yes, they want the type 2A, but you also want some type 2B in there so you can still improve that speed and that power in that athlete. So in your workout, this is going to involve a resistance exercise coupled with a plyometric exercise, which is going to use the same muscle groups. Let's say you have a squat with a squat jump, or a bench press with a plyo push-up. So again, you have your squat, which is going to be your legs, hamstrings, glutes, quads, and then doing a squat jump, which is going to be the same muscles, but now you're doing from a slow movement, high force, to a fast movement at that high force. Both of them you want to have at a maximal force on the object. Bench press, same thing. Now we're getting our chest, pec muscles, front of your shoulders, and your plyo push-up. Same muscle groups, same similar movement, but it's going to be at a faster rate. Your resistance exercise, you want to have it roughly about 70 to 90% of your 1 rep max. So you want to, with this type of training, you want to be able to find a 1 rep max for a variety of movements. So say your squats, your bench press, your deadlifts, overhead press, your clean and jerk, your snatch lift. So know your 1 rep max, so when you go to find a 70 to 90%, you can calculate it and use those numbers for that movement. When you're doing this type of training, because any high resistance and high level of plyometric training, there is a lot of increased compression and tension on the muscles and muscle tendons, and if they aren't used to that high level of force, then that's where injury can occur. So you want to have that high level, that good foundation for your strength training, so when you do come down off that box jump or doing that sprint from 0 to a high level of speed or max force production, those muscles are prepared for that max force and for that tension that's going to be on the muscle fiber and the tendons. When you're doing this as well, you want to have a good warm-up, make sure the body's warm, but you want to make sure you're not doing any static stretches. When you do your static stretches, that's going to relax the muscles, and we don't want the muscle relaxed. We want the muscle to be turned on, ready for this maximal contractions. You want to do a variety of movements in your warm-up that are going to be related to the movements you're going to do in your workout, and then do some dynamic stretching. So stretching that is a moving movement that is going to be going from 0 or going from no stretch to close to a maximal stretch within that movement. So like your leg swings, going from leg to the ground to swinging it up to a higher level with that stretch and through your hamstrings and through your quads as it comes back down and behind you. You can consider 3 different phases of training when you're doing this. There's a general phase where you're just using the major movements, the major muscle groups, and having a lower level of force production, higher reps, but also putting in that plyometric movement. It's going to be that higher reps, so again, try to keep the force down. With your plyometric movement, it's going to be a low level movement, so your squat jump and a box jump or a low level box drop to another box jump. That's what you want to use. Then you're going to get into more a specific phase. This phase is where you're going to want to go into a sport specific type movements. So the movements you do are going to mimic what you do in that sport, or they're just going to be a higher level of plyometric movement. So it's going to be something that is going to increase the amount of tension on the muscle and demand a lot more contraction to get out of that position, or a lot more contraction to exert that much more force on your resistance exercise. So your general training might be more at that 70%, and your specific will be closer to that 90% of that 1 rep max of that resistance movement. With this one, you're going to increase the weight, but you're also going to increase the amount of rest. So the last one, between your movements, you're going to give yourself anywhere 2 to 3 minute rest before you go on to that plyometric movement. In the specific phase, you're going to want to go to a longer rest, and it's going to be less reps. So you have your general phase, increase reps, low weight, and low rest. So high reps, low weight, low rest. Saying 70% of your 1 rep max. In your specific phase, you're looking at increased weight, so more at your, say, 80% of your 1 rep max. 80% of 1 rep max. And now you're going to increase the amount of rest. So this one, your general, you're looking at 1 to 2, possibly to 3 minute rest between your resistance and your plyometric. And your specific, you're going to be looking at more of a 5-minute rest. And with this rest, you're going to be doing your resistance exercise and then immediately going into your plyometric exercise. So there's going to be no rest between those two exercises, but then you're going to give yourself about a 5-minute rest between your sets. It can be roughly 3 to 5 minutes. And so with that, with your reps in your general, you're looking at say 12. In your specific phase, you're looking at 6 reps, and that's of each of your resistance and your plyometric exercise. Then you can get into a competitive phase. So this one, your competitive phase, you're going to increase the weight, getting closer to that 90%. So increasing your weight closer to that 90%, and decreasing your reps. So we went from 6, now we're going to go down to about 4 reps. And then increasing your rest. And that's going to be looking at about 5 minutes for your rest. And with this one, only going for about 2 sets of each of your exercises, and doing anywhere from 4 to 5 different exercises in this phase. And so that's your complex training. Again, it's utilizing your resistance training with a plyometric exercise, going from something that you can apply a high force at a slow rate, which is your resistance exercise, and then going right into a plyometric exercise where you're looking at applying that maximal force still, but now you're having less weight you're pushing against. So you still want that maximal force, but you're trying to do that at a faster rate. So instead of a slow squat coming out of the bottom with that heavy weight, now you have no weight, but you're still going to try to apply that force, that high force, but at a faster rate. So that explosion from the ground up into the air. Using the nervous system, and that's going to help utilize the max number of muscle fibers in that resistance exercise. So with that recruitment of muscle fibers, you can put it and apply it to that plyometric exercise. And the more you do this, then the more your body is going to be accustomed to using more of those type 2B fibers, or those high explosive fibers, in those areas of your sport that are going to require it. And having that balance of type A, which are high production of force, and those type 2B, which have that high production of force, but it's a higher force, a good combination of that can assist your sport greatly. Here are some exercises that you can combine with your squats. Once you've done your 6 reps of your squats at about 70 to 90%, you're going to move on to your plyometric exercise. So in a general phase, you can just go into squat jump. So squatting all the way down, jumping as high as you can. Like that. Next, you can move on to just a box jump. So now it might be a little bit higher surface. Down, up onto the box. Then you can move on to something that's a little more difficult. So now our foot contact was long, so we had our feet in contact with the ground for a long period of time. Now we want to increase that speed. We're going to do a box, we're going to do a drop box jump. We want to minimize the amount of time that our feet are in contact with the ground. We're just going to step off and jump up. So again, we're trying to go from that to this, where we're increasing or decreasing the amount of time our feet are in contact with the ground. You can then take it a little bit farther, and this is where you can play around with things and make things a little more fun. Going from a kneeling position up onto the box. And you can combine it with another box jump after, or whatever you'd like to pair it with. Then you can get into stuff that's a little more specific to either your sport. And so one you can add is this one, just hurdle hops. Forwards, then you can get into sideways, and then getting even more specific is turning it into a sprint when you come out of it. And then you can start using, still doing the sideways, where now you have to turn and pivot to sprint out of it. And that will help work on some of those lateral movements that you might experience in a lot of sports. Here's some exercises you can combine with lunges. So after you do some lunges, whether you hold it in a goblet squat form, front rack, like a back squat, doing your reps, say your 6 reps, then you can get into your lunges. So one can be just a lunge exchange or a jump lunge. Over here, doing your lunge, like that. You can also do a jump lunge where it's a lunge exchange, but you land on the same side. So you'll do your lunge. So a little faster movement through your hips, and then landing. Always trying to do that maximal effort. Then you can get into a skater. So now we're going to be bounding side to side. So you can start by doing a pause. So you're here, pause, 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 pause. Then you can also go into a faster changeover. Here. So now you're having to decelerate and explode into that next one. Another one, you can combine them, so you can change things up a little bit by going pause, pause, quick, pause, pause, quick, quick. Something like that. Or just going to pause, quick, quick, pause, quick, quick. Another one, single leg hops. So you can use the hurdles or without. Like that. Again, you can go a little more specific and have something where you're traveling with obstacles. Moving forward, also hopping sideways. And with that, you can always play around with it, just like with the squats. Try to make it a little more sport specific. So you can combine going for your lateral lunges and then to a sprint off at angles, forward to the sides. You can create whatever you'd like with it. Especially trying to make it a little more sport specific if that's your goal. Then you can get into bounding, where now we're, instead of that one-legged hop, we're hopping with that one leg and we're landing on the other. Go from here. So you have that maximal push and then landing on that other leg for the next push. So with your lunges, we focus on doing more single leg stuff, because with your lunge, you always have that one leg
they're both doing different things. And so with these ones, we did a little more focus on single leg stuff, lateral movements, excellent for sports that require changing directions and sprinting. Here are some exercises you can combine with your bench press. Once you're done your set with your bench press, you can just go to the floor and do some plyometric push-ups. So from the floor, going down as low as you can, exploding up, and having your hands released from the floor. If those are too hard, you can always go to an elevated surface. You can still get that explosive push, but then when you catch, you just have that higher surface so you can catch yourself easier. You can also grab a med ball, and because we want to work on that press forward, med ball, and it's all you do is a chest pass, so forward pass, like that. Also, by doing pull-ups, now we're getting that pulling motion, getting through our lats. We can grab a med ball as well for that one. And because that motion is coming down, we can do the same thing from up here with a ball slam. Coming up and down, getting that motion here through your lats. Also, similar to the chest pass, you can go here, overhead, and throw the med ball. This concept can also be applied to your Olympic weightlifting. Say you're working out a weight, this one here, 95 pounds, and say that weight is becoming difficult or you're trying to improve on your technique on that one, but it is difficult, you can't get enough power to move it. What you do is add extra weight. So up here, and with that, do a high pull. Your high pull, coming up. Do a few of those, then strip the weight. I'll go back to your 95 pounds for your clean. And it may feel a lot easier because now that you've activated those muscle fibers, more of them, you can execute that lift a lot easier and or put more power behind it. Deadlifts are another movement that you can use and combine with plyometric exercise and complex training. So in your deadlift, you have a lot of leg activation. That's your main moving muscle group. But you also have your lats, shoulders, and pretty much your entire back that's stabilizing through the movement. So very similar to your squats, you can do some type of plyometric movement or explosive movement with your legs with a 2-foot takeoff. So whether it's your squat jump, box jump, something along those lines. And also because you are getting your back involved, you can do wall slams because it is your lats that are being activated there. You can do some rotating movements with a med ball against the wall and some catching ones because you're going to be stabilizing your core and your back. You can kind of play around with that one. Other exercises that I included are ones using the battle rope and using the sled for pushing and also the sled for pulling. So with those movements, the battle rope, if you're doing any type of upper body movement, so with the bench press or with your pull-ups, you're going to be using your chest in the bench press, shoulders, arms, and your lats doing your pull-ups. So with the battle rope, you're going to be in that position where you're using a lot of those muscles, some stabilizing and some moving. With your sled push, you'll have the sled loaded up. So as you're pushing it, you have that weight, that's your resistance weight. You're going to push it for X amount of distance, and then when you get to that point, you're going to push off of it and then do a sprint forward. You can do that sprint, or you can stop there and do some type of vertical jump, just like your squats. Same thing if you are doing a sled pull, you have a harness on, or you have straps, you can do your sled pull. That pull is the resistance, and once you get to that distance that you're going, drop the straps and sprint forward again.
An example of a program you can use with complex training is something like this. So if you're in the general phase or just starting, you can go for squats. There'll be 3 sets of 12, and vertical jumps, 3 sets of 10. The way you do this one is you do your 3 sets of 12, resting 60 seconds between each set. When you're done all those, you're going to move on to your vertical jumps or your squat jumps, doing 3 sets of 10, resting 90 seconds between each set. So you'll do all your squats, all 3 sets, and then all 3 sets your vertical jump. When you get to your specific phase, if one of your exercises is squats, you're going to be doing 3 sets of 6 this time, but now you're going to go 1 set of 6, and then 1 set of 6 drop jumps. And then you're going to go 1 set of 6, and then 1 set of 6. So you'll end up doing 3 sets of each one, but always the plyometric is going to follow immediately after the resistance training or the resistance exercise. And then you're going to rest 3 minutes before moving on to your next exercise. Then, when you're in more of the competitive phase, your squats and your drop squats. So now you just did a harder plyometric exercise, and you're only going for 2 sets and 4 reps, especially for the resistance exercise, because now we're increasing the weight. So you're going to do 1 set of 4, and then you're going to do 1 set of 6 drop squats. Then you're going to do your second set, and then you're going to do your second set of drop squats. Then this time you're going to rest up to 5 minutes before moving on to your next exercise.